The moon isn't just our nearest celestial body, it's a canvas for human imagination to run wild. The moon has long been a source of fascination for humanity, from the black and white dreams of early science fiction to the high-definition visions of today. The moon has served as a backdrop for some of the genre's most iconic tales. Reality and fiction collide in the cold, desolate embrace of the moon. The footprints left by astronauts mingle with the footprints of literary heroes. In this journey through the cosmos of science fiction literature, I'll share with you 10 captivating books that transport us to a lunar canvas filled with mystery, adventure, and untold possibilities. First up is Seven Eves by Neil Stephenson. The moon features heavily in this book, but not in the way that you might think. It's the source of much danger and the cause of billions of fiery deaths, but also the last refuge of humanity, the springboard for a future civilization. The opening line of the book is awesome. The moon blew up without warning, and for no apparent reason. From that point on, things get very tricky for humanity. At first, the moon's breaking apart is slow motion, but a popular science TV presenter is the first to realise that this will soon accelerate. Chaos will ensue as the fragments of the moon collide repeatedly and exponentially, ultimately creating a debris cloud that will destroy all life on Earth once it starts to fall. The first two-thirds of the book cover a race against time to save as many people as possible, using the International Space Station as the basis for a hastily constructed haven for a few thousand people. I really enjoyed the detail that the author goes into as the space station gets a series of upgrades. He does a great job with the key characters. I particularly like the way that the crew and scientists aboard ISS begin to dismiss the chaos down on Earth as irrelevant to their future, declaring autonomy and effective martial law in order to get their shit done. There's short-sighted political chicanery, shifting alliances, good science, serious peril, and a cool mission to recover an icy comet to provide the fuel that's needed to lift Izzy up into the orbit of the ex-moon, where it stands a chance of sheltering from the worst of the debris storm. The last third of the book is a little controversial with some readers. Some argue that it could have formed a sequel. It's almost 300 pages long. There's a 5,000-year fast forward. We get to see what the scant remains of humanity that survived the first two-thirds of the book eventually become. There's some cool future tech, including some very novel ways to get down to and back from the now habitable surface of the Earth. While not set on the moon exactly, Seven Eves definitely strongly involves the moon and is one of my favourites. I highly recommend it. Next is Lunar by Ian MacDonald, and you can include Wolf Moon and Moon Rising too. Lunar and its two sequels are some of my favourite recent science fiction books. In the near future, the moon is colonised for the purpose of exploiting its resources. The companies concerned are run by 5 dynastic families, and it's all rather ruthless. MacDonald feeds in high fashion, all printed on demand, low gravity sex, and some serious violence. It's a heady mix of rivalry, ruthless corporate competition, and the tension between family loyalty and friendship, all against the backdrop of the lethal environment of the lunar landscape. The book opens with a group of young people about to undergo a sort of initiation ceremony. They have to run naked across the surface of the moon from one airlock to another. 15 to 20 seconds of hard vacuum exposure. If they make a mistake, trip, forget to breathe out, the moon will kill them. There's the added spice that each is from one of the 5 rival families. Unlike Seven Eves, this book and the 2 that follow are firmly set on the moon. I love these books. If you haven't read them, you're in for a treat. Next is 2001: A Space Odyssey by, of course, Arthur C. Clarke. While it isn't all set on the moon, this novel certainly involves the moon. In the opening section, the main hominid character is called Moon Watcher, and part 2 of the book is set on the moon itself. We follow Dr. Hayward Floyd as he visits Clavius Base to inspect the recently discovered monolith, TMA-1. Clarke details his journey there on a fully automated shuttle and gives some nice descriptions of the facilities and life on the moon base. There's a nice vignette where Floyd meets the daughter of one of the scientists. She was born on the moon and doesn't want to go to Earth because it hurts when you fall over. Floyd muses about her being part of the first generation of spaceborne and what that might mean for humanity. Meanwhile, there's the monolith. Believed to be extraterrestrial in origin, well, no shit Sherlock, newly exposed to sunlight, the jet black monolith is sending a very strong radio signal to Jupiter's moon, Io. What is it? What's it for? Who put it there? And who is on the other end of the radio signal? The rest of the book covers Floyd's trip out to Jupiter on the Discovery and his onward journey to who knows where in the final chapter. From the Earth to the Moon by Jules Verne is next, one from the 19th century. In this Verne classic, bored intellectuals and gun club members decide it would be a splendid idea to build a massive cannon to fire a capsule containing people to the moon. There are a couple of practical difficulties with this. The barrel acceleration of a typical artillery shell is over 15,000 G. The people in that capsule would be pulped against the rear wall of their temporary home. And also, how did they get back from the moon? I suppose that given it was written in the 1860s, we can suspend our 21st century disbelief. In the book, the moon and their crackpot approach to getting there clearly hold some fascination. They're able to easily raise the funds to build the gun and the capsule, the Columbiad. There are engineering and navigational challenges to overcome, international rivalries to deal with, and a brave, or stupid, crew to select. If I remember rightly, the book ends on a cliffhanger. Did they land safely or die trying? I guess that solves the problem of how they got off the moon and back to Earth. There is a sequel, Around the Moon, which does detail the rest of their journey and the return to Earth. Verne avoids the difficulties of a moon landing by having their planned course altered by a close encounter with an asteroid. I gather their landing on Earth is somewhat fraught, not least because they're doing 115,000 miles an hour when they hit the atmosphere. I hope their heat shielding, aero braking and retro rockets were up to scratch. So we're halfway. If this is the kind of science fiction shizzle you like, why not subscribe to the channel while you're here? Onwards. The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Robert A. Heinlein is next. Set in the future on a lunar colony known creatively as Lunar, The Moon is a Harsh Mistress that explores themes of revolution, artificial intelligence, political intrigue and the struggle for freedom. Lunar is a penal colony inhabited by a mix of political dissidents, criminals and their descendants. The inhabitants have a harsh life, dependent on hydroponics for food. Given that it's written by Heinlein, it won't be a huge surprise to learn that the folks on the moon have a strong libertarian streak and are struggling under the yoke of Earth's dominance. The protagonists are aided in their revolutionary plans by Mike, the colony's AI. The novel ends with a battle for Lunar's independence from Earth, a conflict that showcases the colonists' resourcefulness and determination, but also the costs of revolution, the sacrifices made and the unpredictability of human behaviour in a time of crisis. While serving as a vehicle for Heinlein's political leanings, The Moon is a Harsh Mistress is nonetheless respected for its credible presentation of a comprehensively imagined future human society on both the Earth and the Moon. The second entry from Arthur C. Clarke is A Fall of Moondust. In this classic from the Golden Age, by the middle of the 21st century, so not long now, travel to the moon is routine and it's now a tourist destination. The Selene is a moon bus full of tourists, trundling along the Sea of Thirst. If you look out of your window on your left, you can see blah 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 crater and such a mountain. The moon bus drives over a patch of very fine moon dust and sinks without trace. Unable to communicate with their base or anyone else, they are stuck and in a right pickle. Can they escape? How long will their oxygen last? Will they run out of food and have to eat each other to survive? What about water? Will the passengers lose their minds with the stress of it all? Nobody knows. Days turn into weeks. The trapped passengers confront their fears, form unexpected bonds, and find strength in each other's company. Long before Andy Weir or Matt Damon came along, people on the moon and back on Earth get busy sciencing the shit out of it. It's a gripping tale of survival, ingenuity, and the triumph of human spirit. I haven't read this book for an awfully long time, probably not since my teens, but I remember enjoying it. Red Moon by Kim Stanley Robinson is next. In this book of the near future, the Chinese are the dominant force on the moon, with pretty extensive colonies and bases. The story follows a Westerner, Fred Fredericks, who journeys to the moon to install an ultra-secure quantum communications device. During the handover, the intended recipient is murdered and Fredericks is nearly killed. He has no memory of what happens and is soon accused of the murder by the Chinese authorities. Fredericks gets caught up in a turmoil of political instability, brewing revolution and conspiracies at the highest level. There are frantic attempts to hide Fredericks and Xi, the heavily pregnant dissident leader. They escape to Earth, get chased around some more and manage to get back to the moon. On their return, they receive assistance from a wealthy Chinese oligarch who's busy building his own autonomous colony, plus some other independent-minded individuals who want to live outside the sometimes harsh restrictions of Chinese government control. In some respects, it mirrors Heinlein's Moon is a Harsh Mistress, only this time the Chinese provide the oppressive yoke for the colonists to escape. Honestly, it's not Robinson's strongest work, but I like to spend time on the moon, so it's on the list. Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel is next. Published in 2022, Sea of Tranquility follows a time traveller, Gaspard Jacques Robert, and the people he encounters in several time periods. There's a lot of time hopping from a storytelling point of view, so it's a non-linear plot in that respect. Right, okay, but what about the moon? In several of the timelines Gaspard visits, including his own, there is a colony on the moon, and several of the characters in the book either live there, visit there, or at one time live there. There are time travel anomalies, a pandemic, in fact Mandel wrote the book during the COVID years, multiple versions of the same character, and even some self-referential elements. One of the characters is an author that wrote a book about a pandemic, during a pandemic. I really enjoyed Station 11, so I have high hopes for this loopy lunar time travel tale. Rogue Moon by Algis Budrys is next. Rogue Moon is a novella published back in 1960. Somewhat presaging Clarke and Kubrick's 2001, there's a mysterious artifact on the moon. A matter transmitter has been invented which can replicate a person atom by atom. The original human back on Earth is rendered catatonic but can experience what their doppelganger experiences. Each time someone enters the interior of the artifact, they are somehow killed. Based on the previous doppelganger's progress, the next person makes a little more progress and so on. In the meantime, the people back on Earth are affected greatly by experiencing their own death, albeit remotely. The trip through the labyrinth is a metaphor for life, or perhaps for death. On one level, this book tells the story of a puzzle that must be solved. Perfectly good hard SF trope. On another, the book is a study of the meaning of death and the split between the mind and the body. The Patchwork Girl by Larry Niven is next. A detective story set on the moon, The Patchwork Girl is a nice short read, less than 150 pages. The story follows freelance investigator Gil Hamilton as he tries to solve the murder mystery and save the beautiful woman from being turned into a pile of spare body parts, the sentence for murder on the moon. Hamilton is helped by being an empath, his replacement arm coming with extra powers of perception. There are alien artifacts and technology, lasers, alien motives and political intrigue. It's a nice blend of classic detective noir and speculative fiction. From the moon's dusty surface to the limitless realms of imagination, these stories remind us that the moon is not just a distant rock, it's a canvas upon which we paint our dreams and aspirations. We're not just readers, we're cosmic explorers, dreamers, reaching out to the moon and beyond. Until next time, bye for now.